Hello, Erica here, and I am back again because it is Vlogmas, and I hope you're not tired of my smiley face yet. Today I'm going to talk about books that I was assigned as reading in school and never read, or didn't read until after school. In my reading history video, which may or may not be up before this one, but I have filmed it, you will, or would have, heard me talk about how I was really bad at assigned reading in school, and I have a degree in English literature. So this was not great. These are some books that I should have read in school. Some of them I have since read and really enjoyed, and some of them I have not. So let's get started. The first one I want to mention, because I will forget to mention it, because I don't have a physical copy of it if I don't mention it right off the bat, is Paradise Lost by John Milton. I took an entire semester-long course on John Milton, and I still have not read Paradise Lost, and I have been assigned it probably in 2 or 3 different courses over my life. Have not read it. Have read bits and pieces of it. Have never read the whole thing. I will someday. It's not something that I think I'm going to hate. I just know it's going to be a lot of work. And I'll read it someday. But I have not read it yet. The Awakening by Kate Chopin I was assigned as reading in high school. And I was assigned again in college at some point. And I did not read it in either class. I have since read it. I really loved it. It's really important. And you should read it. I actually wrote a paper on one of Kate Chopin's short stories in college, but never read The Awakening. It's unfortunate. Everyone should read this book, though. This is a weird one. The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros I was assigned for not a literature class, but for an American Studies class that I took, and I didn't read it, even though it's like the tiniest and easiest book ever. Like, the font is so large, and the chapters are so short. They're like 2 pages long. And it's a wonderful book, and I have since read it, and it's very important, and I think that everyone should read this book, but I did not read it in high school. Another book for that same American Lit class, which, by the way, I failed, just to be clear. Not reading did not always get me good grades. I had a hard time in college. I was not very good at school. Was The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. I have since read this, and I absolutely loved it. It is a collection of stories about men who were in the Vietnam War, and what their life was like there, and also what their life was like once they returned home and dealing with the realities of being home in America, who hated them for fighting in a war that they didn't really have that much of a choice but to go fight, and the PTSD they were dealing with, and all kinds of stuff. So it's really beautiful, and I'll read you the blurb because it's absolutely one of my favorite parts of the book. Carried malaria tablets, love letters, 28-pound mine detectors, dope, illustrated Bibles, each other. And if they made it home alive, they carried unrelenting images of a nightmarish war that history is only beginning to absorb. I'm not usually into war literature at all, and I really love this book. It's really beautifully written, and it's really moving. So I'm glad that I read it now, but really should have just read it the first time and maybe not failed that class. I cannot tell you how many different classes assigned The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I have now read this book. I did end up reading it for a class my senior year of college, but I had to have been assigned it at least 3 times before that and had never finished it, starting in high school. The Scarlet Letter is a really interesting book, and Nathaniel Hawthorne's writing is not the easiest to gel with for me personally. I've tried reading other books of his and also have not had great success the first time around. But The Scarlet Letter is, of course, about Hester Prynne, who is living in a small town and has been sentenced as an adulteress because she has had a child out of wedlock and has to wear a scarlet letter on her clothes so that everyone knows that. It is a very good book, and I'm glad that I read it finally for that one class, that one time, when I was getting my shit together, but I didn't read it before that. This may surprise some of you if you know anything about my love for Hemingway, and that is that in high school, I was assigned A Farewell to Arms, and I never finished it. I did start it in high school, and you can even see where I, annotated it in high school. This is my same edition. Hold on, I paid attention in class and wrote down what the teacher said, but I never finished reading this book, and I did not like Hemingway at the time, and it wasn't until later, after I graduated college and read this book on my own, that I realized how much I loved Hemingway, and I have since read 6 more of his books. So there's that. The Grapes of Wrath is another book that I fell completely in love with when I finally did read it, but I had been assigned it again in multiple classes. American Lit classes seem to repeat the same books over and over again if you're not catching on to that. So a lot of books that I was assigned in high school, I was also assigned in college in multiple courses, which was kind of frustrating. But The Grapes of Wrath is, of course, Steinbeck's famous novel about a family who travels to the West to find prosperity, and that does not work out so well for them. Really, absolutely stunning book. A book that I still have yet to finish in its entirety is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Again, this is a book that I was assigned multiple times, and I never got through. I'm just not that into it, which is strange because I'm really into Southern Lit. I have no problem with classics. This isn't a super old classic. It's supposed to be kind of accessible for younger readers, not children, but like younger readers. I read Tom Sawyer when I was like 10, but for some reason I still have not read this. I don't know that I ever will. I don't have a huge interest in reading that book anymore. I know that it's problematic, and like I said, I've read Tom Sawyer, and that just might be enough Mark Twain for me. So I don't know if I'll ever read it. I have this very, very pretty edition of it, though. Last one is probably going to shock some people. In high school and in college, multiple times, I was assigned To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I did not read Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird until about 2 years ago for the first time. So I was like 25 when I read To Kill a Mockingbird for the first time, which is a huge gap in my reading life. And I'm glad that I filled it. I did really enjoy To Kill a Mockingbird. It's one of those books that I am really sad that I didn't read it the first time I was supposed to when I was like 14 or 15. Because I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But I do know that as an adult, I understood a lot more of the racial subtext and the kind of subtleties of the book. So there is that. But yeah, I really like this book. But I feel like because I didn't read it when I was supposed to, I really missed out on having like a lot of fondness for it. I like it, but I don't have like warm, fuzzy feelings when I think about it. So yeah, those are some books that I was supposed to read in school, and some of which I did, and some of which I didn't. That's not all of them by any means. I do not think, you might not even understand how bad I was at doing my assigned reading, and how miraculous it is that I now have a degree in English literature. I don't know what happened. I did read some things. I did not read anything, but I didn't read more of the assigned reading than I did read. So that's a fun tidbit from my life. I have kind of made it a personal goal of mine to go back and read all of these books that I was assigned and never read, at least most of them. And I've been slowly doing that on no specific timeline. Just like, oh yeah, I should read that thing that I was supposed to read 10 years ago and never did. So I have been doing that a little bit, as you can see, because I have read some of these now. But that's all I have for you today. In school, were you really good at assigned reading, or did you put it off? Are there some books that you hate now because they were assigned reading? I feel like people get that a lot. And I had a little bit of that too. And anything else you want to share, you can do that in the comments. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a lovely day. I will be back tomorrow with more Vlogmas. Bye!